What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Daves-Raves, Sorcerer's Stone. And we are in chapter 13. Nicholas Flamel. Quick recap of what happened last time. Nicholas was Quidditch, pretty self explanatory, and the Mirror of Eras said, where Harry saw his family, and Dumbledore posted. So, yeah, chapter 13 Nicholas Flamel. Dumbledore had convinced Harry not to go looking for the Mirror of Erised again, and for the rest of the Christmas holidays, the invisibility cloak stayed folded at the bottom of his trunk. Harry wished he could forget what he'd seen in the mirror as easily, but he couldn't. He started having nightmares. Over and over, he dreamed his parents disappearing like a flash of green light. With a high voice cackled with laughter. You see, Dumbledore's right. That mirror can drive you mad, said Ron, when Harry told him about these dreams. Hermione, who came back before the day before term started, took a different view of things. She was torn between horror at the idea of Harry being out of bed, roaming in school 3 nights in a row. It feels to caught you. And disappointment that he hadn't at least found out who Nicholas Flamel was. Or they had almost given up hope of ever finding Flamel in a library book, even though Harry was still sure he'd read the name somewhere. Once term had started, they were back to skimming through books for 10 minutes during the breaks. Harry had even less time than the other two because Quidditch practice had started again. Wood was working the team harder than ever. Even the endless rain that had replaced the snow couldn't dampen his spirits. The Weasleys complained that Wood was becoming a fanatic, but Harry was on Wood's side. If they won their next match against Hufflepuff, they would overtake Slytherin in the House Championship for the first time in 7 years. Quite apart from wanting to win, Harry found that he had fewer nightmares when he was tired out after training. Then, during one particularly wet and muddy practice session, Wood gave the team a bit of bad news. He'd just gotten very angry with the Weasley twins, who kept dive bombing each other, pretending to fall off their brooms. Will you stop messing around? You know, that's exactly the sort of thing that'll lose us the match. Snape's refereeing us time, and he'll be looking for any excuse to knock points off Gryffindor. George Weasley really did fall off his broom with these words. Snape's refereeing? He spluttered through a mouthful of mud. When's he ever refereed a Quidditch match? He's not going to be fair if we might overtake Slytherin. The rest of the team went next to George, coming too. It's not my fault, so we've got to make sure we play a clean game. So Snape hasn't got any excuse to pick on us. Which was all very well, thought Harry. But he had another reason for not wanting Snape near him while he was playing Quidditch. The rest of the team hung back to talk to one another as usual at the end of practice. But Harry headed straight back to Gryffindor Common Room, where he found Ron and Hermione playing chess. Chess was the only thing Hermione ever lost at. Something Harry and Ron thought was very good for her. I'd have to agree. So Hermione's not perfect at everything. Don't talk to me for a moment, said Ron when Harry sat down next to him. I need to count. He caught sight of Harry's face. It's not a few. You're quite terrible. Speaking quietly so that no one else would hear, Harry told the other two about Snape's sudden, sinister desire to be a Quidditch referee. Don't play, said Hermione at once. Say you will. Pretend to break your leg, Hermione suggested. Really? Break your leg, said Ron. I can't. There isn't a reserve seeker. If I back out, Gryffindor can't play at all. At that moment, Neville toppled into the common room. How he managed to climb through the portal hole was anyone's guess, because his legs had been stuck together with what they recognized at once as the leg locker curse. He must have had a bunny hop all the way up to the Gryffindor Tower. Everyone fell over laughing except Hermione, who leapt up and performed the counter curse. Neville's legs sprang apart, and he got to his feet trembling. What happened? Hermione asked him, leading him over to sit with Harry and Ron. Malfoy, said Neville shakily. I met him outside the library. He said he'd been looking for someone to practice that on. Go to Professor McGonagall, Hermione urged Neville. Report him. Neville shook his head. I don't want more trouble. You've got to stand up to him, Neville, said Ron. He's used to walking all over people, but that's no reason to lie down in front of him and make it easier. There's no need to tell me I'm not brave enough to be in a Gryffindor. Malfoy's already done that, Neville choked out. Harry felt in his pocket of his robes, pulled out a chocolate frog, the very last one from the box that Hermione had given him for Christmas. He gave it to Neville, who looked as though he might cry. You're spoiled, Malfoy, Harry said. The sorting hat chose you for Gryffindor, didn't it? And where's Malfoy? And stinking Slytherin. Neville's lips twitched, and a weak smile as he unwrapped the frog. Thanks, Harry. I think I'll go to bed. You want the card? You collect them, don't you? As Neville looked away, Harry looked down at he looked at the famous wizard card. Dumbledore again. He's the first one I ever he gasped. He stared at the back of the card. Then he looked up at Ron. I found him, he whispered. I found Flanell. I told you I'd read his name somewhere before. I read it on the train coming here. Listen to this. Dumbledore is particularly famous for his defeat of the Dark Wizard Grindelwald in 1945. Huh. Wow, so they really did mention Gellert Grindelwald in the very first book, talking about some really early Easter eggs. For the discovery of the 12 uses of dragon blood and his use and his work on alchemy with his partner Nicholas Flamel. Hermione jumped to her feet. She hadn't looked this excited since they got in the back or back to March or the very first piece of homework. Stay here, she said, and she sprinted up the stairs to the girls' dormitories. Harry and Ron barely had time to exchange mystified looks before she was dashing back, an enormous old book in her arms. I never thought to look in here. I got this out of the library weeks ago for a bit of light reading. Light, said Ron. But Hermione told him to be quiet until she'd looked something up. Started flicking frantically through pages, muttering to herself. At last, she found what she was looking for. I knew it! I knew it! Are we allowed to speak yet? Said Ron grumpily. Hermione ignored him. Nicholas Flamel, she whispered dramatically, is the only known maker of the Sorcerer's Stone. This didn't quite have the effect that she'd expected. The what? Oh, honestly, don't you two read? Look, read that there. She pushed the book toward them, and Harry and Ron read. The ancient study of alchemy is concerned with making the Sorcerer's Stone a legendary substance with astonishing powers. The stone will transform any metal into pure gold. It also produces the elixir of life, which will make the drinker immortal. There have been many reports of the Sorcerer's Stone over the centuries, but the only stone currently in existence belongs to Mr. Nicholas Flamel, the noted alchemist and opera lover. Mr. Flamel, who celebrated his 665th birthday last year, enjoys a quiet life in Devon with his wife, Perenelle, 658. See, said Hermione, when Harry and Ron had finished. The dog must be guarding Flamel's sorcerer's stone. I bet he asked Dumbledore to keep it safe from him because they're friends and he knew someone was after it. That's why he wanted stone moved out of Gringotts. Welcome into Stream, Harry Story. A stone that makes gold and stops you from ever dying, said Harry. No wonder Snape's after it. Anyone would want it. And no wonder we couldn't find Flamel's study of the recent developments in wizardry, said Ron. He's not exactly recent. He's 665, is he? The next morning, in defense against the dark arts, while copying down different wizardry and werewolf fights, hmm, Harry and Ron were still discussing what they'd do with the Sorcerer's Stone if they had one. It wasn't until Ron said he'd buy his own Quidditch team that Harry remembered about Snape and the coming match. What's up, Eric? Ah, good to know you do have enough noties on. I'm going to play, he told Ron and Hermione. If I don't, all the Slytherins will think I'm just too scared to face Snape. I'll show them. It'll really wipe the smiles off their face if we win. Just as long as we're not wiping, just as long as we're not wiping you off the field, said Hermione. As the match drew nearer, however, Harry became more and more nervous. Whatever he told Ron and Hermione, the rest of the team wasn't too calm either. The idea of overtaking Slytherin in the House Championship was wonderful. No one had done it for 700 years. But would they be allowed to? With such a biased referee? Harry didn't know whether he was imagining it or not, but he seemed to keep running into Snape wherever he went. At times, he even wondered if whether Snape was following him, trying to catch him on his own. Potions was turning into sort of a weekly torture. Snape was so horrible to Harry. Did Snape possibly know that they found out about the Sorcerer's Stone? Harry didn't see how he could, yet sometimes he had the horrible feeling that Snape could read minds. You don't say. Harry knew when they wished him good luck outside the locker room for the next afternoon that Ron and Hermione were wondering whether they'd ever see him alive again. This wasn't what you'd call comforting. Harry hardly heard a word's pep talk as he pulled on his Quidditch robes and picked up his numbers 2000. Ron and Hermione, meanwhile, had found a place in the stands next to Neville. He couldn't understand why they looked so grim and worried, or why they had both brought their wands to the match. Little did Harry know that Ron and Hermione had been secretly practicing the leg locker curse. They got an idea from Malfoy using it on Neville, and were ready to use it on Snape if he showed any signs of wanting to hurt Harry. Now, don't forget, it's a locomotor mortis. Hermione muttered as Ron slipped his wand up his sleeve. I know. Don't nag. Back in the locker room, Wood had taken Harry aside. Don't want to pursue you, Potter. But if we ever need an early capture of a snitch, it's now. Finish the game before Snape can favor Hufflepuff too much. The whole school's out there, said Fred Weasley. Peer out the door. Even blimey, Dumbledore's come to watch. Harry started to get a somersault. Dumbledore? He said, dashing to the door to make sure. Fred was right. There was no mistaking that silver beard. Harry could have laughed out loud with relief. He was safe. There was simply no way that Snape would dare try to hurt him if Dumbledore was watching. Perhaps that's why Snape was looking so angry as the teams marched onto the field. Something that Ron noticed too. I've never seen Snape look so mean, he told Hermione. Look, ouch! Someone had poked Ron in the back of the head. It was Malfoy. Oh, sorry, Weasley. Didn't see you there. Malfoy grinned broadly at Crabbe and Goyle. Wonder how long Potter's going to stay in his room this time. Anyone want to bet? What about you, Weasley? Ron didn't answer. Snape had just ordered Hufflepuff a penalty because George Weasley had hit a bludger at him. Hermione had all her fingers crossed in her lap, was squinting fixedly at Harry, who was circling the game like a hawk, looking for a snitch. You know how I think they choose people for Gryffindor team, said Malfoy loudly a few minutes later, as Snape ordered Hufflepuff another penalty for no reason at all. It's people they feel sorry for. See, there's Potter, who's got no parents. Then there's Weasley, who's got no money. You should be on the team, Bomb Bomb. You've got no brains. No one went bright red, but turned his in his seat to face Malfoy. I'm the 12 of you, Malfoy, he stammered. Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle howled with laughter, but Ron, still not daring to take his eyes from the game, said, You tell your gold, you'd be poorer than the Weasley. And that's saying something. Ron's nerves were already stretched to breaking point with the anxiety belt from Harry. I'm warning you, Malfoy. One more word. Ron, said Hermione. So, Harry, what? Where? Harry had suddenly gone into a spectacular dive, which drew gasps, and cheers from the crowd. Hermione stood up, her crossed fingers in her mouth, as Harry streaked down toward the ground like a bullet. You're gonna look, Weasley. Potter's obviously spotted some money on the ground, said Malfoy. Hey, we got three up in chat. Welcome in, welcome in. Ron snapped. Before Malfoy knew what was happening, Ron was on top of him. Yeah, I tried to, man. I tried to. Ron was on top of him, wrestling him to the ground. Neville hesitated, and then clambered over to the back of the seat to help. Come on, Harry, Hermione screamed, leaping onto her seat to watch as Harry sped straight at Snape. She didn't even notice Malfoy and Ron rolling around her seat, or the scuffles around the yelps coming from the whirl of fists that was Neville, Crabbe, and Goyle. Up in the air, Snape turned on his broomstick, just in time to see something scarlet shoot past him, missing him by inches. The next second, Harry had pulled out of the dive, his arm raised in a triumph. The snitch clapped in his hand. The stands erupted. It had to be a record. No one else could ever remember Snitch being caught so quickly. Run, where are you? The game's over. Harry's won. We've won. Gryffindor's in the lead, shrieked Hermione, dancing up and down on her seat and hugging Barty Patil in the front row. Hey, we got four up in stream. Welcome in, welcome in. Make sure y'all smash that like button. Harry jumped off his broom, a foot from the ground. He couldn't believe it. He'd done it. The game was over. It had barely lasted 5 minutes. As Gryffindors came spilling onto the field, he saw Snape laying nearby, white faced and tight lipped. Then Harry felt a hand on his shoulder and looked up into Dumbledore's smiling face. Well done, said Dumbledore quietly, so that only Harry could hear him. Nice to see you haven't been brooding about that mirror. You're keeping busy. Excellent. Snape spat bitterly on the ground. Harry left the locker room alone some time later To take his Nimbus 2000 back to the brim shed. He couldn't ever remember feeling happier. He'd really done something to be proud of now. No one could say that he was just a famous name anymore. The evening air had never smelt so sweet. He walked over the damp grass, reliving the last hour in his head, which was a happy blur. Gryffindors turning to lift him onto their shoulders, Ron and Hermione in the distance jumping up and down, Ron cheering through a heavy nosebleed. Harry had reached the shed. He leaned against the wooden door, and looked up at Hogwarts, with its windows glowing red in the setting sun. Gryffindor in the lead. Done it. You'd shown Snape. And speaking of Snape, a hooded figure came swiftly down the front steps of the castle, clearly not wanting to be seen. It walked as fast as possible toward the Forbidden Forest. Harry's victory faded from his mind as he watched. Hmm. He recognized the figure's prowling walk. Snape, sneaking into the forest while everyone else was at dinner. What was going on? Harry jumped back onto his Nimbus 2000 and took off, gliding silently over the castle. He saw Snape enter the forest at a run. He followed. The trees were so thick he couldn't see where Snape had gone. He flew in circles, lower and lower, brushing the top branches off the trees until he heard voices. He glided toward them and landed noiselessly in a towering beech tree. He climbed carefully along one of the branches, holding it tight to his broomstick, trying to see through the leaves. Below, in the shadowy clearing, stood Snape, but he wasn't alone. Quirrell was there too. Harry couldn't make out what the look on his face, but he was stuttering worse than ever. Harry's trying to catch what they were saying. Don't know what you wanted to me hear of all the places, Severus. Oh, I thought we'd keep this private, said Snape, his voice icy. Students aren't supposed to know about the Sorcerer's Stone, after all. Uh-oh. Harry leaned forward. Quirrell was mumbling something. Snape interrupted him. Have you found out how to get past that beast of Hagrid's yet? But Severus, you don't want me as your enemy, Quirrell, said Snape, taking a step toward him. I don't know you know perfectly well what I mean. That's the voice I want to use for Snape. An owl hooted loudly, and Harry nearly fell out of the tree. He steadied himself in the time to hear Snape say, "A little bit of hocus pocus. I'm waiting." But, but, don't. Very well. Snape cut in. We'll have another little chat soon, when you've had time to think things over and decide where your loyalty is a lie. He threw his cloak over his head and strode out of the clearing. It was almost dark now, but Harry could see Quirrell standing quite still as if he was petrified. Harry, where have you been? Hermione squeaked. We won! You won! We won! Shouted Ron, thumping Harry on the back. And I gave Malfoy a black black eye, and now we'll try to take on Crab and Goyle single-handed. He's still out cold, but Madame Pomfrey says he'll be all right. Talking about showing Slytherin, everyone's waiting for you in the common room. We're having a party. Ray and George stole some cakes and stuff from the kitchens. Never mind that now, said Harry breathlessly. Let's find an empty room. You wait till you hear this. Hey, shout out to the one still up in the stream. Harry. Oh, sorry. He made sure Peeves wasn't inside before shutting the door behind him. Then he told them what he'd seen and heard. So we were right. It is the Sorcerer's Stone, and Snape's trying to force Quirrell to help him get it. He asked if he knew how to get past Fluffy. I reckon there are other things guarding the stone, apart from Fluffy. Love enchantments, probably. And Quirrell would have done some anti-dark art spell that the snake needs to break through. Seeming the stone's only safe as long as Quirrell stands up to Snape, said Hermione in alarm. We're gonna be gone by next Tuesday, said Ron. All right, chapter 14. All right, chat, and we are going to take just the briefest of intermissions. All right, chat. We are now back with chapter 14. Norbert. The Norwegian Ridgeback. Excuse me, chat. Quirrell, however, must have been braver than they thought. In the weeks that followed, he just seemed to be getting paler and thinner. But it didn't look as though he cracked yet. Every time they passed the third floor corridor, Harry, Ron, and Hermione would press their ears to the door to check that Fluffy was still growling inside. Ah, one second, chat. Every time, whatever Harry passed, Quirrell these days, he gave him an encouraging sort of smile. And Ron had started telling people off for laughing at Quirrell's stutter. Hermione, however, had more on her mind than the Sorcerer's Stone. She had started drawing up study schedules and color coding all her notes. Harry and Ron wouldn't have minded, but she kept nagging them to do the same. I told me for a while. All right, so I'm actually going to end it here at chapter 14. That phone call fucked up the audio with the headphones. So, yeah, until next time, y'all, I'll be reading chapter 14 later.